Just looking for a road home.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mickey C, aka TheLoLHounds, and today we have a very special video. Not so long ago I uploaded a build guide on the highest ranked EU West Yasuo main who goes by the name of Addict, and he currently has 2 accounts in Challenger. After that video he contacted me and was like, yo, do you want to do a follow-up video where I discuss my build in more detail and clear up some misconceptions people have of Yasuo? As a big Yasuo fan myself, I obviously accepted, so here we are with the man himself, Addict.
Hey, I'm Addict, or Ringo King. I'm a Yasuo main, and I currently have 2 accounts in Challenger. My main account being somewhere around rank 50, and my second one being rank 80ish. I've been playing League since Season 3, and I've been Challenger since Season 4, where I picked up Yasuo along the way somewhere mid-season, and I've not really stopped playing him ever since. Now, the reason I enjoy playing Yasuo is probably because he is a champion that has a practically unlimited skill ceiling, and it's also really rewarding when played properly, more so than most other champions. Furthermore, I also have a stream over at twitch.tv/RingoKong, and I plan on starting to stream within these next upcoming few weeks, where I'll be focusing mostly on teaching matchups, as I think that is my expertise.
Okay, so basically the video will be in a Q&A type format where I ask him some questions about his build, so without further ado, let's do this. Question number 1. You always max Q instead of E first, which is different to what most Yasuo players are currently doing. Instead they would max E first for the extra mobility and outplay potential. It also allows your shield to be up a lot more frequently. Why do you prefer the Q max first instead of E?
So the reasoning behind maxing Q is that it provides you a very dominant laning phase. I personally believe that it is superior to E max against every single melee champion. Because maxing E means that you have to play aggressive to output your damage, which is just too easily punishable in a lot of matchups. It's also impossible to have perfect wave control when you're constantly dashing around to fully utilize E max, making it very difficult to get a decent freeze off. The optimal way to play Yasuo, in my opinion at least, is having a minion wave right in front of your turret, which gives you immediate kill pressure the moment the enemy laner oversteps due to Yasuo's fantastic damage in extended trades, which Q max complements. Not to mention you're not as prone to getting ganked, which is one of Yasuo's biggest weaknesses. Q-Max is also beneficial against counter matchups, think Aurelia, Fiora, Riven, Darius, Renekton, Olaf I guess, because it allows you to very consistently harass your opposition from a safe distance and dictate the pace of the laning phase from safety. Dashing on top of these champions will be playing right into their hands as they need to get into close range to unlock their combo. The only downside of maxing Q over E is it's going to be a little bit harder to make, I guess, mechanical outplays due to your E being on a longer cooldown, but I don't think this is necessarily needed during the laning phase, as you can just dumpster your opponent with the oppressive damage that Q max brings. Again, this is aimed at extended trades, as E max does provide slightly better burst.
You usually take the following mastery page, 18-12-0, with your keystone being Fervor of Battle. Most of this is pretty standard, however in the cunning tree you take Bandit over Dangerous Game. In my previous video, I was a little bit confused as to whether this was optimal or not. Why Bandit?
Bandit's actually really easy to proc, because Yasuo's Q is considered as a basic attack. It usually nets you around 250 to 350 gold at the 10-minute mark, which helps you get to your 2-item power spike a little bit faster, being Phantom Dancer and Frozen Mallet. To me, Bandit's a lot more valuable, as I generally do not try and go for kills if it might end up with me dying, or in this case living on sub 50 HP, where a Dangerous Game will come in handy. Basically I just try not to put myself in a scenario where Dangerous Game is needed, which is why I heavily prefer Bandit.
Your core items for the most part are Phantom Dancer, Frozen Mallet and Merc Treds. Your remaining items are usually Infinity Edge, Maw of Malmortius and Bloodthirster. One other situational item that you occasionally go with is Wits End. Me personally, I have never considered Wits End on Yasuo. Can you explain why you choose your item build and when would you go Wits End?
The Phantom Dancer into Frozen Mallet build is a build that I Fury crafted when they first announced the Trinity Force change. Getting these 2 items allows you to practically duel any champion in the game around the 17ish minute mark, given that you're not miles behind. I actually used to have a more tank oriented build, but as you can tell I've recently strayed away from that, and the build that I go with right now is essentially a 1v5 build, because if you can get ahead early and start building the damage, it's a lot easier to snowball than it is with the full tank builds, not to mention that it scales really well as well. As for Wits End, this is an item that I used to think was good because it provides you a very strong early game and it does hard counter AP champions, but after looking into it a little bit more, I have come to the conclusion that it is not worth buying due to the very steep late game follow and delayed item power spike.
You either take exhaust or TP along with flash. Can you quickly explain when TP and when exhaust?
So exhaust is something that I like running against Arbrelia, Renekton, Darius, and occasionally Fiora, depending on if our mid laner has teleport or not, but baiting these champions into a false sense of security is fairly easy as they all have a very predictable playstyle, and getting them to all-in you and then turning it around with exhaust usually results in a kill or at the very least a really favorable trade for you. Plus, as long as your exhaust is up, you completely nullify the kill pressure they usually have, and it gives you a lot more free space to skill than TP would. Now, there is a downside to not running TP, which is that it can be abused by teams that know what they're doing because you're not able to split push as effectively as you will be able to do with TP.
As I'm sure some of my subscribers would be interested to know, who do you think is the best Yasuo in the world apart from yourself, and how do you think you compare with ArKaDaTa?
I'm gonna be completely honest with you here, I don't really follow every Yasuo player, so I would not be able to accurately state who I think is the best. But as for how I compare myself to ArKaDaTa, I think ArKaDaTa is pretty good mechanically, but he does lack in the laning department and he plays fairly recklessly, which results in a lot of needless deaths. I do however think that his montage are quite cool to watch, and I think he's comparable to Gripex in that sense. Now for me, I think my success with Yasuo comes from being knowledgeable and playing a calculated playstyle. I tend not to go for unfavorable fights or risky plays, and I do my best to keep my death count as low as possible. Plus, personally I think I have a fairly high understanding of kill pressure, which allows me to snowball games a little bit better.
Finally, do you have any Yasuo tips for the aspiring Yasuo mains out there?
Okay, so the best tip that I could probably give you is to try and learn when you have kill pressure, and I'd recommend doing so by playing about 10 to 15 to maybe even 20 hyper aggressive normal games to try and figure out in which scenarios you can kill your opponents. Yasuo is a very high kill pressure champion when played right, and getting kills in lane plays a big part in snowballing the game, as getting to your 2 item power spike as soon as possible is essential because that's when Yasuo really starts to come online.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That should clear up some of your question marks you may have had with his build. I would like to thank Addict for his time and effort in giving us his answers. It is always great to hear thoughts from one of the best. Please drop a like for Addict for helping to make this video possible. If you have any further questions that you would like to ask him, be sure to follow his stream, and hopefully when he goes live he will be able to answer your questions. Apart from that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and as always, have a nice day.